everybody, and welcome back to Keepers of Humanity, Constellating Wisdom from the Stars to the Earth. I am Jocelyn Starfeather, and I am your host for this gathering, and I am delighted today to be here with Heather Ensworth. Hi, Heather. Welcome.
Great to see you, Jocelyn.
Wonderful to be here with you, Heather. So welcome in everybody. In Heather's interview, we are going to explore the wisdom of the stars of Orion and Sirius and how they're guiding us at this time. So really exciting subject matter we'll be covering here. I can't wait. So let me just introduce you to Heather as we begin. In case you don't already know about her work, you definitely need to. So Heather Ensworth, PhD, is an internationally known astrologer and clinical psychologist with over 30 years of experience. In addition, she is a shamanic practitioner and has facilitated sacred circles for more than 20 years. She is the author of the book, Finding Our Center, Wisdom from the Stars and Planets in Times of Change, and co-author of 2 books, From Trauma to Freedom, One Woman's Journey and a Holistic Guide for Healing, as well as Higher Vibrational Living Through Astrology, Essential Oils, and Chinese Medicine. Heather shares astrological information on her YouTube channel and in her monthly newsletter. She is committed to exploring and teaching ancient wisdom and healing practices for our own evolution and healing of the earth. So, wow, thank you so much, Heather, for being here. Once again, it's an honor to have you here. And I love the work that you're doing, how you combine these different lineages of knowledge that you bring. And you are doing this amazing work to get the voices and wisdom of so many out to the world on your YouTube channel, as well as everything I've already said in your bio. So thank you for the work that you do.
Oh, thank you, Jocelyn, and thank you for the work that you're doing and for this amazing summit. I'm really excited to be a part of this with you.
Yes, so wonderful to have you here. Thank you. So your topic today is wisdom from the stars of Orion and Sirius, guiding us in our ascension in this time. And I'm just so excited about this because I know it's connected with Egypt and it's connected with our ancient cultures around the world. So I know this is going to be an amazing conversation. So can you begin by sharing with us why have the stars of Orion and Sirius been so important over time to many different cultures and since very ancient times on our planet?
So that's a great question. And they really are critical stars. And I think a huge part of that is because of their connection to the meaning of the processional cycle that ancient advanced cultures were very aware of. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that today, how that relates specifically to Sirius and Orion, and how the energies of the sky as well as the earth are supporting us in this profound time of transformation that we're in as we're moving into higher consciousness. Wonderful to be in this process together because so many of us, as you and I were talking about, around the globe are really awakening, moving into that higher consciousness and co-creating a new world together. So that's a part of what these stars are guiding us in.
Amazing. Well, that's what this whole gathering is all about. So it's absolutely perfectly aligned.
So let me show some slides and talk some about why these stars are so important, and then let's get into more of a conversation about it.
That sounds wonderful. Yes, you are welcome to share your slides.
So I really am sharing about some of the wisdom of the stars for us. And in particular, I'm going to talk about some of the star wisdom coming from ancient Egypt and their deep attunement to the wisdom of the stars and how they really understood that hermetic principle as it is above, so it is below, that everything is interconnected and that the movement of the stars and the sky are speaking to us of the energies here on Earth and guiding us in our cycle of evolution and growth. And in ancient Egypt, they also had this understanding of the difference between the circumpolar stars, which are the stars here in the northern hemisphere that never rise or set. They're always visible in the sky because they're circling around the celestial pole, versus the stars that we see that can dip below the horizon, disappear from view, and then rise again. And according to Bernadette Brady's research, these stars that are always in the sky, that are called the imperishables, carrying that energy of eternity, are the stars that hold the energies of the sacred feminine. The stars that rise and set, that are guiding us in understanding our journey of mortality, life, death, rebirth. Those are the stars that carry the energy of the sacred masculine, our hero's journey. So we all have both the energies of the sacred masculine and sacred feminine within us. And I heard that Keone's on in the audience today, and he and I have had some great conversations about his ancient lineage and understanding of our integration of the wisdom of the sacred masculine and sacred feminine. So check out his work too. So in ancient Egypt, there was also that understanding of Nut, the sky goddess, who is the source of all of life and the other gods. She is associated with the Milky Way, which also holds our view of the galactic center. That dark rift in the Milky Way is our view of the source of our galaxy. But in particular today, I want to talk about the importance of Sirius, the brightest star in our sky, and Orion. And these stars are really important and were profoundly meaningful in ancient Egypt, but you also find them in myths and stories from cultures around the globe. And it is because of their relationship with the processional cycle. The processional cycle was deeply understood in ancient Egypt and other advanced ancient cultures. And it is that understanding, if you monitor our relationship with the sky and look at, for example, what stars are rising here in the northern hemisphere at the time of the spring equinox, you'll see that over a prolonged period of time, the stars of the ecliptic will move from one constellation to the next, shifting 1 degree every 72 years, such that in about a 2,000-year period, we move from one constellation being prominent at that time before sunrise at spring equinox to the next, and they move backwards through the signs. But what's significant is they're guiding us in this larger 24,000-year processional cycle that speaks to the evolution of our consciousness here as humanity on the earth. And the processional cycle is also associated with the Hindu Yuga cycle, which is this understanding of our movement through this 24,000-year cycle, with 12,000 years of the ascending cycle, our ascending consciousness, 12,000 years of descending consciousness. And according to that understanding of the processional cycle, we are now emerging out of the period called the Kali Yuga, which is the time of forgetting, when we actually lose some of that ancient understanding of who we are, of why we're here. We get caught in this experience of separation and of forgetting, and we are ending that Kali Yuga period at the end of this year and the beginning of 2025 as we're moving into higher consciousness. Again, you know what age you're in terms of that processional cycle by the stars that are rising before the sun at spring equinox. And this is a look at how the sky was this last spring equinox. And you can see here are the stars of Aquarius rising before the sun. So we are moving into the age of Aquarius. You can also monitor the processional cycle by how the pole star will shift over time. And we now have Polaris as our pole star. But 12,000 years ago, it was Vega. We know the ending of one processional cycle and the beginning of a new one by when the sun at the time of winter solstice is in alignment with the center of our galaxy. And that occurred 2012, which was why that year was so important. So we are not only moving into the age of Aquarius, we're at the end of one 24,000-year procession cycle and the beginning of a new one. And ancient cultures who tracked this larger cycle were very aware that the times of the most significant earth changes and shifts in our consciousness come at the beginning of a new cycle, where we are now, and the midpoint, which was 12,000 years ago. What is it that influences this shift in the ages and this 24,000-year processional cycle? Many people think it relates to the tilt of our Earth's axis that causes that shift in our perspective of the sky. But Walter Cruttenden and others who've done in-depth research, he believes that our sun is a binary star like 80% of the stars in our galaxy. And it's his belief that our binary star guiding us through this journey of evolution is the star Sirius, the brightest star in the sky. So that brings us back to the importance of Sirius and Orion and their relationship with each other, which in ancient Egypt related to the goddess Isis, the great mother, and Osiris, the god who guides us in the journey of life, death, rebirth. So I know, Jocelyn, you know this story very well, but let me just briefly recap the story of Isis and Osiris, because it's so encoded with the meaning of the processional cycle and helping us understand this profound time that we're in now. And I just want to say that the book Hamlet's Mill, written by two scholars, guides us in understanding that these ancient myths from around the globe were encoding their understanding of star wisdom to guide us in understanding these larger cycles of change that we're in. But the story of Isis and Osiris is the story of these two rulers in ancient Egypt who held in balance that wisdom of the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine. They were these benevolent rulers who helped the people stay in balance, in right harmony with all that is. However, their brother Set, who is the deity about the energy of time and chaos and disorder, became very jealous of his brother Osiris and set out to destroy him, to take over his power. And he made a box and he brought it to this great banquet. And he wanted to gift this beautiful box to whoever would fit perfectly inside. And he designed it so that only Osiris would fit in this box. Osiris gets in And Set slams the lid shut, and with his 72 conspirators, again, this is a reference to the processional cycle, he sends the box down the river Nile to get rid of Osiris. Isis, in her love for Osiris, searches high and low until she finds the box and opens it up and helps Osiris, who's been killed by Set in this whole experience, to revive, come back to life, and then he impregnates her with their son, Horus. Set, in his anger, comes back, finds Osiris's body, cuts him into 14 pieces, scatters him far and wide. And again, Isis seeks out all of those lost parts of him, pieces him back together, makes him whole, and then supports him in becoming the god of the underworld. So it so shows that way in which Isis holds that energy of eternity and supporting Osiris in his own experience of death, resurrection, death, rebirth. And he then holds that wisdom of how we move through those cycles individually and collectively. Here's an image of Isis in her bird form as a kite hawk, reviving Osiris, resurrecting him. And interestingly enough, in ancient Egypt, the kite hawk is associated with the constellation Cygnus, which is this constellation that guides us in flying in our journey after death back to the galactic center, back to source, to be revived and resurrected. So you can see how this story relates to the processional cycle and our journey individually and collectively through these times of transformation of life, death, rebirth, and our shifts in consciousness. These stars are so important in ancient Egypt, and we know that the pyramids on the Giza Plateau are in alignment with the stars of Orion's belt. The Great Pyramid has star shafts that are in alignment with Orion and Sirius, and then with some of the circumpolar stars. My book, Finding Our Center, is about the meaning of the processional cycle and how, as we move through these different ages, it's guiding us in different phases of our journey of human consciousness. And as you journey to ancient Egypt, you see some sites in ancient Egypt, like the Sphinx, and I believe the Great Pyramid, that date back 12,000 years ago, at the time of the last huge shift of earth changes and of human consciousness around 10,000 BCE. And the Sphinx was built at the time that the stars of Leo were rising before the spring equinox. So the lioness was facing the lion, and again, in ancient Egypt, holding that balance of the energies of the earth and sky to be in right harmony. Now, our modern understanding of history dates back to about 3000 BCE. We see our modern historical era as being this past 5,000 years, when in actuality that isn't true. When you tap into some of these advanced ancient cultures like ancient Egypt that date back thousands of years ago. But our modern understanding starts with the age of Taurus, which was about 4,000 to 2,000 BCE, and was a time when the goddess was very honored. We honored the sacredness of the earth. This is the time in ancient Egypt that the temple of Hathor, the cow goddess, began to be built. We moved from that time of honoring the sacred feminine and the sacredness of the earth to the age of Aries, 2000 BCE up to our current era, where we moved into Aries ruled by Mars, the energy of the sacred masculine, and the meaning of our hero's journey of moving through this experience of mortality. But unfortunately, we got caught in the shadow side of the age of Aries and into the movement into patriarchy and the power over paradigms that we're continuing to deal with in this time. Around 0 of the current era up to 2000 of this era, we were in the age of Pisces, where we were meant to correct that out of balanced energy of the age of Aries by coming back into that mystical awareness, Pisces, of our oneness with all that is. Buddha and Christ were guiding us back into that awareness that we are soul selves having a human experience. We are a part of eternity, but we carried those power over paradigms through the age of Pisces. And now, as we're moving into the age of Aquarius, we're needing to clear that, come back into balance, take in the living waters of the water bearer, guiding us back into the remembrance of who we are and of how we can come back into right balance, right harmony with all that is. One of the other things that's extraordinary is with Sirius, our binary star, guiding us through this journey, and Orion showing us how we can live that and embody that in our experience here on Earth. As you move through the processional cycle, Orion shifts from 12,000 years ago being at its highest declination in this relationship with the horizon, and across the last 12,000 years, it's grown higher and higher in the sky until it's now at its highest level in the sky, literally showing us how we're in a time of ascension to rise into this higher consciousness and come back into balance and harmony. And that awareness of unity consciousness, our interconnectedness with all that is. I think it's also significant that opposite the sky, opposite Orion, is Ophiuchus, the great healer, who is the serpent bearer, holding the most ancient image of the sacred feminine, the serpent. So he is symbolic of that reweaving of the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine to come back into balance. And from the perspective in ancient Egypt, Ma'at, that deity, actually, for the ancient Egyptians, the deities were the Neteru, the archetypal energies of the cosmos. And Ma'at symbolized that principle of everything is meant to be in right harmony, right balance with all that is. We are part of the interconnectedness of all of life in the consciousness of our cosmos. And when we come back into alignment with our soul selves, then we remember how to come back into right balance, right relationship within ourselves, with each other, with all of life. And that is the process that we're in right now.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Heather, for all of this wisdom and this connection with the stars and the processional cycles, and how this has so much meaning for us. And I think it is just so beautiful to look back and see what, how complex and advanced the knowledge of our ancient ancestors was in Egypt and in every culture, truly, around the world. So thank you so much for bringing us this information. And I was pondering as you were presenting some of those later slides that, you know, Orion would be within the constellation of Taurus, right? And it's interesting that that age of Taurus in the processional cycle is where we kind of see recorded history beginning.
Mhm.
And my understanding of that, I'd love to hear your understanding of that too. My understanding of that is that that's when we started to write things down because we were starting to forget, right? And the symbolism of
Interesting.
Taurus as like we're coming more into the 3D, we're coming more into the you know, our grounded earthly nature and maybe losing some of that connection to the higher consciousness that we had in the golden age. It's one theory, you know, because in the pyramids or on the Sphinx, there's no writing. In the Osirian, these really, really ancient structures, there's no writing because we didn't need to write things down at that time. But we see the writing begin to appear, at least in Egypt, around 3200, you know, BC. And that was the age of Taurus. So it's very interesting to ponder that. But that also is corresponding with where the constellation Orion is, seems maybe significant.
Yeah, there's the star Sirius, then Orion, and then Taurus. You're right. And interestingly enough, Taurus also has, the shoulder of the bull or the Pleiades, and we're in this cycle with Sirius, our binary star that takes us through this 24,000-year processional cycle. Then we're in this much larger cycle in our movement around the Pleiades and around the galactic center. So that whole part of the sky is so highly significant. But what you're saying about written language is true. As we moved through the age of Taurus towards the age of Aries, we were also shifting from right brain dominance, which was how we functioned for those thousands of years up to that point. Then we shifted as we moved towards the age of Aries into more left brain dominance, which is about language and moving into more of that analytical mind, which is a part of our experience. And I think this was a part of the intention of the age of Aries, to move into that experience of our capacity to see ourselves as separate, to analyze what's around us, to be in that exploration. But the intent, the deeper meaning of that was to then bring it back into balance with our right brain ways of knowing and hold that balance of left brain, right brain, sacred masculine, sacred feminine. And I think as we're moving into the age of Aquarius, we're being guided back into that balance. And in fact, from my perspective as a neuropsychologist, the corpus callosum that is balancing and bridging the left brain and right brain is growing stronger in us. We are being guided to come back into that whole brain perspective and how to hold the wholeness of our sense of separation, but our being part of the oneness of all that is.
Yes. Yes, that's so powerful. And that balancing of masculine and feminine too, right? That comes with the balancing of the left brain and the right brain. Being able to access the highest qualities of both.
Yes.
Not too much to one side, not too much to the other side. Yes. Yeah, beautiful. And I want to share a comment Keone put in the comment, and I want to let everybody know Keone Hanale is on with us here, and his interview is airing today too. His interview is pre-recorded, so after you watch this one, definitely check out Keone's pre-recorded interview. It's fantastic. And Keone said, such great information, Heather. In Mu, we believe the closer Sirius is to our sun, time is quicker. The further it is from us, the slower time behaves. So even in Mu, we believe that Sirius is our binary star. So that's very powerful.
All right, that's good confirmation coming out of that ancient lineage. And Keone and I, by the way, did a recent interview on the origins of Mu, of Lemuria. So I recommend
Fantastic interview. I love that one.
But what's interesting in what Keone is saying is when you think about the Hindu Yuga cycle and that journey of ascending consciousness and descending consciousness, it's my sense that as the sun moves closer to Sirius, we move into higher consciousness. As the sun moves further in that orbit from Sirius, we begin to forget what we once knew. And as Keone said, it affects our sense of time and also the speed of the processional cycle. Robert Edward Grant has done some research showing that as we're distant from Sirius, the processional cycle slows down. As we move closer to Sirius, it speeds up. And I think that's part of why so many of us feel that time is accelerating now, and that the shifts that we're in are moving so rapidly because we are moving back into that closer connection to Sirius that's supporting us in shifting into higher consciousness.
Mm-hmm. That's very reassuring. We're moving in the right direction. There's another fascinating aspect to this is if you read the ancient Greek texts, they speak about Sirius as a red star. And clearly in our sky right now, if you look at Sirius, you will see her as a blue star or even like a kind of rainbow colored star, but the predominant color is blue. And so there's been studies that are showing that as we move, so as we're moving in this, huge, expanse of outer space, when we're moving toward a star, it appears blue. When we're moving away from it, it appears red. So we've been going through these different cycles. And so the color of Sirius actually does change over time. And because she's blue now, we know we're moving toward her. So interesting.
That is interesting. And it's interesting that so many people who are psychically gifted see us being as infused with blue light that's supporting us in this time. So that may be beaming to us from Sirius. And I think not only are we moving into ascending consciousness, but we are at a critical time in that processional cycle where I think we're capable of a huge evolutionary leap. And so this is such a profound time when we can move into that fifth dimensional consciousness, move into that remembrance that we're energy beings. We're, as the Peruvians would say, homo luminous ones, beings of light. So this is such a profound time.
It really is. I'd love to talk a little more about that too, Heather, that we have this ability to make a big leap right now. And actually this came up in Pam Montgomery's interview, which we recorded just a little bit earlier today, that we're in this time where we can make a big leap. Because as these timelines are accelerated, we can, it's happening. There's this huge uprising of human consciousness, of people awakening, to remember who we truly are, right? And so I guess for our audience here, our audience here is clearly aware of that and clearly on that journey already. So we're so glad to have everybody here in this community. But what would you say, Heather, maybe from an astrological perspective or maybe from an Egyptian perspective, what words of wisdom would you say to guide people who are, really wanting to help make that big leap for us as a collective and also each of us in our own lives?
That's a great question, Jocelyn.
It's a big question, I know.
Yeah. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it too. But what I would say is, and a theme that I talk about a lot is that we need to heal what needs to heal. And in order to move into that higher consciousness in an integrated way, we can't do a spiritual bypass. We really need to honor our deeper process of clearing what we need to clear that's blocking us or holding us down. In ancient Egypt, they talked about what's weighing your heart down that keeps your heart from being as light as a feather. And the scales of Mott were weighing the heart against that feather. So I think as we heal, then we can open to the energies from the earth and sky that are guiding us into this higher consciousness. And then as we hold that energy and emanate that love and wisdom, it, as Rupert Sheldrake talks about, it creates this morphogenic field. And then we're emanating that energy into the collective consciousness. And if enough of us are doing that, it will shift the consciousness of humanity. It takes only a small percentage, some say 10% of humanity to hold that higher consciousness, that higher frequency of love, of unity consciousness, to shift the world.
Yeah, I think we're well on our way there from what I hear happening in the world, as far as all of the high consciousness things going on that you don't see reported on the nightly news. And communities like this one are such a big part of that. Definitely. And what would you say, Heather, are the attributes of the age of Aquarius that we can really lean into? Because we know that we are, right, our consciousness is shifted as we move through each of these great ages in the processional cycle. So what can we really turn to with the age of Aquarius beginning now, to support us and guide us on this journey?
I think it's extraordinary that the image of the constellation is the water bearer pouring the living waters to the earth. And they're the living waters of our life. And I think it's so interesting with the work of Veda Austin and others. We're discovering more and more about the consciousness of water. I mean, Veda's work really indicates that water holds the memories of our entire journey here on the earth. And she sees water actually as God consciousness. But the water bearer is also pouring the living waters of energy of wisdom to the earth. So part of the meaning of the age of Aquarius is that understanding of everything being energy. Everything is interconnected. And as we come back into that unitive consciousness, as Jude Currivan would talk about it, then we come back into that energy of love and right relationship and can emanate that. And Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, which is the planet that is about truth, justice, living in balance with natural law. And it's guiding us to clear what we need to clear to come back into that alignment with our soul selves and with the consciousness of the cosmos.
Yes, I love that connection between Uranus and Aquarius, and Uranus is having such a strong astrological impact on us this year.
Yes.
Just having had the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, we're really being shaken out of our old patterns and invited into the higher mind consciousness. It's incredible.
Well, and as you said, Jocelyn, I think part of what we're seeing, and again, it doesn't get reported in the news. The news is very much about what's going on in a negative way and activating fear. But when you tap into that shift into higher consciousness that's happening with so many awakening, and your community, my community, our combined communities are really holding that and experiencing that and supporting that in each other, it leads to such heightened creativity. And I love what's happening is we're starting to see a parallel reality that is built on these new paradigms of the Aquarian age and is really stepping out of these old power over destructive paradigms of the last 5,000 years.
Yes, absolutely. And to me, that's such an important part of the Aquarian archetype, is this idea of egalitarian, humanitarian, grassroots, right? It's about the community. It's not about the people at the top of the pyramid, not to bring pyramids into this really, but it's not about the 1% of the people at the top of the politics and all that. It's about the community. It's about all of us working together
and co-creating a new world together.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So that's very exciting. And it's like, that's what we have to look forward to. So as we, some days can feel despair about what's going on in the world, in some ways, we want to keep turning back to this energy, the energy of Aquarius, the energy of the communities coming together, the energy of the higher consciousness coming in. There's so many beautiful things happening right now.
And I think as we come into that Aquarian understanding that we are all a part of the oneness of all that is, we not only find our connections in community, and part of the beauty of the paradigm of the Aquarian age is honoring the diversity within our communities and celebrating that. And it's also honoring our relationships with the larger galactic community. So I think we're connecting more and more, not only with the wisdom of the planets and the stars, but the other galactic beings that can come back into connection with us when we come back into balance.
Yes, and who have probably helped us before.
And are waiting patiently for us to wake up now.
Yes, yes, I agree. Well, I would love to invite some questions from the audience here. So for those who are watching live on Zoom and live on YouTube, if you have any questions for Heather, go ahead and put those in the chat, and I will check both of those chats. And I just want to answer a question from Suzette here on Zoom. She's saying, can we access a recording of this after? Yes, Suzette, as long as you are registered for the Keepers of Humanity conference, you will get a recording of this sent to you after. Yes, and you can go to the event schedule page from any of the emails we've sent you. As long as you've registered already, you'll be getting these emails. Go to the event schedule page, find Heather, and click on her. Click here to watch Heather's interview, and you'll be able to see it there. We'll post it soon after we're done here. So let's see. I want to see what questions we have. Niabi is asking, what do the 14 pieces of Osiris represent?
Great question. You know, I've really pondered that because when you look at those ancient myths, all the numbers have meaning. And I think, you know, there are layers to that, in that part of our experience of seeing the shifting of our experience of mortality, life, death, rebirth, we see in the lunar cycle, which goes through 14 days of waxing moon, 14 days of waning moon. That's the cycle of life, death, rebirth. But I also, and I couldn't get into this in more detail, but as we go through the processional cycle, we go through these ages that relate to each of the constellations in the zodiac. So all 12 of those constellations or signs of the zodiac. But then Orion is speaking to our larger journey through that evolutionary shift with the processional cycle. So I think it's the 13th, and the 14th piece is the sign opposite. Everything in ancient Egypt is about balance. So you have to have the balance of the opposites. And the sign opposite Orion is Ophiuchus, the great healer.
Very interesting. Yes. Thank you, Heather. And yeah, I love that you're pointing out that Ophiuchus is opposite of Orion in the zodiac. That is very interesting. I can't even put into words exactly why, but there's something, I agree, there's something really significant there.
Something powerful about that dynamic, yes.
That combination. Yeah, definitely. Let's see, here's another question from Linda. When gazing at the stars, any suggestions for honoring and connecting in a more multidimensional or galactic way?
Oh, these are great questions. Yes, two suggestions. One is, and one of the things that I love that we've been doing in the Aquarian shamanic astrology class I'm teaching this year, is we really honor those left brain, right brain ways of knowing. So we learn about the stars and the planets, but then we do a shamanic journey to them so that they're speaking to us, communing and communicating directly to us with their wisdom. When you understand that everything is conscious, then we can actually be communicating with the stars and planets and gaining their wisdom in that direct way. The other way that I love working with the stars or the planets is because I've had herbal training, including with Pam Montgomery, I decided if you can work with flower essences, why not with star or planetary essences?
Beautiful.
So you can go out at night and connect with a star or a planet and develop a relationship with it, and then make your own star essence so that you're actually deepening your connection with the energy of that star or planet and allowing it to heal you, guide you, transform you.
Beautiful. I love that idea. Love that idea, the star essences. And yeah, it's so important for us to remember that these stars and planets are intelligent beings. They have consciousness. They each have their own personality, just like we do, and they have wisdom to share with us. So just bringing that into our awareness can really shift things.
And when you realize we are part of this journey in our relationship with cosmic consciousness, then it's also such a comfort to know that we are held, we are loved, we are guided, we are never alone, and we're being supported by these loving conscious energies to wake up and heal and come back into remembering who we truly are.
Yes, truly, truly. That was one of the biggest shifts for me in my own spiritual awakening. A little side note here, about this is I always, before I had my awakening, I felt so alone. I was depressed. I was anxious all the time. I felt so alone, and this idea we're born alone, we die alone, all of that. And through my awakening, I came to know just how surrounded every one of us is with guides and support and protection. And it changes everything when you
It
realize that.
changes everything.
Yeah. Yes. And this is more of what the ancient people and the indigenous people have always known. Have always known to be true. Let's see. Polio is asking, or Polo, sorry if I said your name wrong, is asking, I would like to have your opinion more in detail about the power of interconnections. I am exploring this so I can invite people to this concept in their lives. Let me know, Heather, if you want to ask for more detail on that question, power of interconnections.
Yeah, well, let me give some response. And if that's not what the question was actually about, we can kind of go deeper. But from my perspective, when we come out of this, as you were saying, Jocelyn, when we come out of that sense of separation back into that remembrance of our interconnectedness with all that is, it affects us on every level. Elizabeth Sahtouris, the evolution biologist, says we humans need to catch up with the rest of the species on the planet who've gone from an immature level of development, which is about survival of the fittest and that sense of separation, into the realization that we thrive by being interconnected and interdependent. And that changes then how we relate to the life around us on the earth, how we relate to each other, how we relate to the cosmos. And then we operate out of that sense that living with that understanding of interconnectedness or unity consciousness means then being in right relationship in all that you do, in every action that you take. And it changes your whole paradigm, your whole way of interacting and being. And it also helps us, again, hold that larger awareness that if everything is a part of the oneness, then we are just a fractal expression of cosmic consciousness. And that what we uniquely have to give with our gifts, our creativity, can be of service to the whole. So we are each unique, but we're a part of that oneness of all that is.
So beautiful. Thank you for that brilliant understanding of those interconnections.
So I
Yes.
hope that answered the question.
Okay. And yes, they said, I love this answer. Thanks. So that's great. Okay, wonderful. Now, Heather, I want to make sure everybody knows about your free gift, and let's talk a little bit about your work as well. So, first of all, you have this beautiful free gift for us, a sun moon meditation. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, it's supporting us in connecting with those energies, which again, I think guide us in remembering the sacred masculine and sacred feminine energies within us, bringing them into balance, which is part of the shift that we're in this time. So that's my intention and hope with the meditation. And part of what we're experiencing in this time of accelerated shift with where we are moving through the galaxy, we're going through what's called the galactic sheet, which means our Earth's magnetic field is lower than normal, and we are experiencing more intense energies coming to us from the sun and galactic center, which are a part of what are shifting, activating our pineal gland, shifting us into higher consciousness. So I think connecting with the energies of the sun and moon can support us in that.
Beautiful. Thank you for that free gift. And so I just put that free gift in the chat. If you're here live with us on Zoom or YouTube, it's in the chat there. And also, if you're watching this later as a recording, just scroll down a little bit below the video and you will find the link to Heather's free gift. So everybody go and enjoy that. And yeah, I think as we're recording this, we've had just an extraordinary number of X flares and M flares in the past few days. So
yes, yes.
The sun is helping us out and also making us maybe a little more tired than usual.
Yes, one of the things I think we all need to remember is it's activating that expansion of our consciousness, but our bodies have more of a challenge catching up with this accelerated transformation that we're in. So I think we need to hold ourselves with compassion and also take a lot of time to be out in nature, grounding yourself and letting those energies shift out of your body into the earth to support you in grounding and integrating what's coming in with these powerful energies and solar flares.
Definitely. Yes, beautiful. And as Pam Montgomery said in our last interview, don't bring your cell phone when you go out into nature. Just go without the cell, Wi-Fi, whatever.
Yes, come back into connection, not disconnection.
Yes. We have one more question that popped in here that I think would be great to bring into the conversation. So let's go to this one more. Valerie is saying, I'm wondering about Ophiuchus and its connection to healing.
Yes, so it really is holding that archetypal energy of healing on all levels. I mean, Ophiuchus is connected with that Greek understanding of Asclepius, but I think in the most profound way, because Ophiuchus is this energy of the integration of the sacred masculine and sacred feminine. It's guiding us in how to heal, to come back into our wholeness, that we all have those energies within us and we need to bring them back into balance. And I think it's also showing us that as we're in this evolutionary journey that Orion represents, we've got this guidance coming to us to help us heal, to help us, like in the Isis Osiris story, to realize we go through these times where we do get out of balance. We get caught in disorder, chaos, crisis. Set is that energy on the earth of imbalance and trauma and disorder. And as we can honor that journey of healing, then we come back into wholeness, then we come back into right balance. I think another piece connected to that that's important is Barbara Hand Clow, who I have a great deal of respect for, internationally known astrologer, writer. But she's written a book. I think it's now called Planetary Awakening, but it used to be called Catastrophobia. Do you know that book, Jocelyn?
Yes, I do.
Part of what she talks about in that book is because we do go through this processional cycle and these periods of radical earth changes and shifts in consciousness, like happened 12,000 years ago with the fall of Atlantis, the floods, the earthquakes, the massive reset on the planet. Because we go through those times of trauma, we all carry that trauma, that PTSD, in our cellular memory. And part of what she highlights is we not only need to heal individually, but heal that collective PTSD, or we will tend to be caught in that fear and trauma pattern and create the very thing that we fear. So I think as we're in this time of accelerated change, we're also needing to heal that collective trauma to realize this is the time we can be in an evolutionary leap, a healing and awakening, and not a crisis.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And to know we have the resilience, we have the higher consciousness to really
We have the support.
do this. Yeah. Yes, that's so powerful. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Heather, for all that you've shared here with us today. It has been very enlightening and many, many wonderful comments of gratitude in the chat. So thank you for all of this. And it's been just delightful to be with you today.
Oh, thank you, Jocelyn. Thank you for doing this summit and all the work that you're doing. And I'm so grateful to this community and how we are supporting each other in healing and awakening.
Yes.
So thank you.
We really are, truly. So thank you again, Heather. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and much love to you.
You too.